Please help me welcome David Lecko to the podcast.
What's up?
Hey, thanks so much for coming on. You've obviously been a serial entrepreneur, both in real estate, but also on the tech side. You created a really amazing tech business as well, a software business called The Deal Machine. Can you just give us a little bit of background about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I've had 3 total businesses ever. The first one was I was a college student and I was the president of my fraternity. And we read a book on the best ways to grow your chapter. And there was a spreadsheet that they were telling us to use to keep track of all the conversations we were having. And I knew from my internships that all these sales teams and recruitment teams have a special tool called a CRM. So I made a CRM for fraternity recruitment in my free time. Ended up selling it for $10,000 after working on it for 2 years. But the best, most valuable thing I ever did was I worked for that guy who bought it. And I learned how he actually grew the business around the software that I created. So then I noticed he actually had rental properties, and I was always saving 50% of my salary so that I could retire. Hopefully by the time I was 40, I'd read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'd read The 4-Hour Work Week. I knew that saving and having time on my side, doing that as early as possible, was going to yield like exponentially better results for down my life. And so I was kind of confused why he had rental properties when I've been doing everything in my 401k. And he said the stock market goes up and down, but the rentals, if you manage them well, they'll cash flow every single month. So if you're talking about retiring early, like that steady stream of cash flow is really good. So then I started looking for real estate deals. So that's my second business. Was I've got a rental portfolio of 19 properties now, and self-manage all of those. And I did 7 deals this year. Many of those just reusing the same down payment over and over again using the BRRRR strategy. And then the third business is a marketing tool for people that look for off-market deals. About 70% of our users are doing wholesaling. And so I've had that. It's called Deal Machine. So we provide the data on who would likely want to sell, how to get in contact with them, and the ability to send mail or call them through the app. And so that's my third business. And I just have the 2 for the last 8 years, the rental properties and Deal Machine. So I would say hopefully that answers your question about me. A couple other random facts. I've got 2 Bengal cats, and they're actually trained to use the toilet. So I thought that would be a cool party trick when people come over. Usually I hope he has to go to the bathroom. He hops up there. Everybody's impressed.
How long did it take you to train him to do that?
It's 6 weeks, actually, if you get this kit on Amazon.
Yeah. There you go. So you found the kit, you made it happen, and boom, now you got a good party trick, and they can do it themselves. It's easier to clean up.
When I knew it was possible, I was like, how could anybody not do this? It's just like 6 weeks of intense focus for like a lifetime of really cool party tricks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any good party tricks?
I don't have, not anymore. I don't party as much anymore. I'm trying to think if I had any really, really good party tricks. The best thing I could probably come up with was a semi-decent keg stand, but no, I don't have any good party tricks. I really wish I did.
I don't party either, man. The mission's too important. I'm always trying to stay healthy. I don't like drinking because the way it makes me feel the next day, it feels like the whole next of the rest day is ruined because I haven't gotten good sleep. I just get hungover very easily. So I'm with you, man. I don't party.
Yeah. I had the opposite issue. I loved to party, right? I just loved it. And then exactly like you said, then I had a couple key things happen in my life. I had children, right? That's a key paradigm shift for me. And then when you start building the business, just like you said, the mission and what we're trying to do, it's too important. It takes too much focus if you want to do big things, and all the other stuff, all that partying, or even for me, what I realized was even one drink. So even one drink, how I would feel the next day in the morning when all my 4-year-old wants to do is wake up his dad at 6 a.m. and play. I would be just a little more irritable, just a little more cranky.
Oh, yeah.
And I just decided hey, I'm done with this. So for me, I'm now 11 months sober, which has been the first time I've ever done it since I was 15 years old, because I really like the party scene, right? I like the intensity. I like the social side, and I'm like, once I get into something, I want to go all out. So, I had a big stint in life where I did a lot of that. And then now I've been able to refocus through a couple of those big events, and I get so much more joy out of and contentment out of being sober than I've ever had. So it's been a huge, I would say it's one of the biggest game changers for me. And it actually leads me to a question I wanted to ask you, because you said before you even started your business, and I want to unpack that, you were saving about 50% of everything you were making. Talk to us about the discipline, the habits. Where did you learn that? And what did you have to give up to be able to do that? Because 50%, that's a lot of money that you're saving there. Talk to us about the habits and discipline that took.
Yeah, I was doing about a $70,000 a year salary. So that means I was living off $35,000 ish before taxes. And I don't know. I felt like there were kids in school and I had a decent upbringing. I drove a Chevy Lumina, which, I mean, some people didn't have a car at all. But that was great. I had that. But some people had really nice cars in high school. I remember this guy, Max, he had a MR2 Spider. It was like really cool sports car. And I was like, the way to get there has got to be to earn it or invest. So I was reading books aggressively and I was thinking that time is on my side. I've got to sock as much of this money away as possible so it can grow. If you ever look at the compound interest chart, it gets real big after like 30, 40 years, right? So most people don't even start until they're like 40. So I was like, well, I'm going to do really well by starting now. And I want to be as aggressive as possible. Nothing was more important. Not trips with friends, not having a nice car, not taking girls out on dates. I just kind of tried to skip most of that because the mission of making it big was too big for me. Nothing else mattered more. So I had roommates. I paid like $550 a month for a bedroom, and drove like an old car, 10-year-old Honda for as long as it would run, and just tried to save as much as possible. Now, I would have to lie if I told you I never had to pull down from my savings account because $35,000 a year just wasn't enough. It's like, I was like, oh boy, I need to put a little bit more money back in the main account because I had overspent or something, because it's very little to live off of. But in the end, when I had the idea for Deal Machine, I quit my job and I basically lived off that savings for a year and a half. And if I hadn't have had the discipline, I didn't use it in my retirement account like I thought I would, but it allowed me to have the flexibility to go all in when I knew something was a sure thing. And so that's really fortunate. And changing your mind is okay.
Yeah, I love it. Changing your mind is important, actually, right? Because I think if you just stay stuck in one, as we learn, I know in my own experience living the growth mindset, as new information comes to me, and if it's true information, if I was blinded by, I had a blind spot, or as I experienced new things, one of the most important things I believe is creating a positive pivot. And I think that the key that you see there is, although you changed your mind, maybe it didn't go into your savings account, it was the discipline created the destiny that allowed you to then go and take that leap of faith with Deal Machine. On Deal Machine, I want to unpack that because it sounds like you always had this lens of opportunity. You were in your fraternity. You saw that they wanted you to have X amount of door knocks. You said, let me build a CRM system, right? That was your first go at building you saw an opportunity, you built a business around it, sold it off. Then it sounded like you went into real estate. And my guess would be, as you were looking for these rental properties, you realized there was a gap in the market. Is that how Deal Machine was born?
Yeah, I was thinking about a trend in my life is witnessing something that works really well. I had internships at AT&T. Their sales team had a software specifically for tracking relationships. So in this other domain of fraternity recruitment, I knew, obviously, I don't need to sell anyone too hard because every sales team in the world has this software. It just hasn't been created for this niche. So I knew that was going to work and I created it. And then on the real estate side, again, everyone was telling me when I was getting started, oh, you can't find a good deal? Drive for dollars. Look for houses that are run down, contact the owner. And I was writing stuff down on paper and I was lacking in my follow-up, meaning, 2 months would go by, I'd written a bunch of addresses down, but I never sent out mail. And I realized, man, there should be a software that just handles the follow-up for you. Like every other industry has a software to automate stuff like this for you. So I'm going to make it. And it wasn't even for sale. I mean, it was just for me. I was like, this should exist.
Yeah,
I know
to get more deals.
I know there's a company out there that like prints mail when you send it an API call. So there should be an app. I could pin it, look it up, send the mail. And so And real estate rentals is the same way. When I told my parents I was going to get in rental properties, they were concerned and sat me down. It was like, well, we talked to Nancy at church and she had a tenant trash her rental property. It was a complete disaster. She didn't have insurance. She was left with a disaster, lost all this money. But, I went to conferences, real estate meetups, plus I worked for a guy who was successful at it. So again, I was like, I witnessed this being successful. And so that gives me confidence to go and do it, because I can reverse engineer what's over here for me. Or in real estate case, it's a proven business model. There's people who have hundreds and hundreds of rental properties. So how is it that they manage those without like losing money on all of them because they all get trashed? There's a way, there's a method. I just need to learn, read books, learn from people who are currently doing it or who have done it. And so that would be the trend if I were writing down stuff from this podcast, is just, replicate what's worked for somebody else.
Yeah, I love it. So you're going through the experience just like any entrepreneur venture, right? You're going through it. You're trying to find these rental properties. You're driving for dollars. You're writing all these addresses on. You have your own problem. You hit your own problem, which was you need to follow up. Then did you go and code this software at first yourself? What did you do? Deal Machine, the idea obviously wasn't even to sell it. It was originally just to solve your own problem. Like, I want to be able to have follow up and get these deals. Did you then go and write the code yourself? Is that what you did? Or did you hire a team? Or how did that look as you were ideating to solve this problem for yourself? What did that look like?
So I had a few coding classes, and my current job was actually working at the US Postal Service as a database developer. So I hadn't built a mobile app. So I actually pulled open Upwork, and I was like, I want you to teach me the mobile app language. I don't want you to write it for me, but I want you to teach me how to write these features into an app. Let's go. And so I paid somebody $500 to like join a Zoom call and been like, type this. Okay, do this, do this. So it was important for me to do something before I hired somebody else to do it for me. And that's been a huge pattern for anything that I've done. So just as an example with social media, I realized that social media is a good way to help investors learn how to invest and also make them aware of the marketing tool that I created, Deal Machine. So before hiring somebody to just do social media for me, I wanted to be in the trenches doing the actual, scripting, filming, editing, and posting, which I've done the last 2 years, actually, myself, 1,000 videos. And then I realized now that I've got a pattern down, now I'll go get somebody to take that off my plate. So I had a mentor, Dan Martell, and he coached me for 3 years privately. And he said, you should never hire somebody to add capacity to your plate, but you should always hire somebody to remove things from your plate. So that way, if they're doing a good job at that thing you hired them to do or not, because you have some experience doing it.
I love it. Yeah. And I think it's actually really smart, because how would you properly delegate if you haven't experienced what you want it to be like, especially in something when you're doing a startup like you did, right? You had to solve your own problem. You had to learn how to make it happen. And then now we see on the back end, we see what the Deal Machine's been turned into. So you learned how to do the coding, and now you're creating this app to solve originally your own problem. When did you decide, or when did you think about like, hey, I might have something here that can help more people?
Yeah, I was never very good at sales. So the thought of pitching someone to like invest in my startup, I didn't want to do that. Like, and it just seemed like lame, which I don't know. It just wasn't my vibe. So the fact that I had the money saved up to go all in on something I believed in was like badass. And I made it for myself, and secretly I was like, well, if it really truly helps me. Everyone's driving for dollars out here. I know other people are going to probably use it. But it wasn't until I went to a meetup, I told my friend, Brittany Wicks, who hosted the meetup, she actually taught wholesalers once a month how to find deals. And then she'd be the buyer. She'd like buy all the deals up. And she'd buy like 30 per month. It was mind blowing actually at the time. She's like, that's badass. You made this app. I'll buy like $1,000 worth of mail through it, because I would spend $1,000 to try any new marketing just to give me a little bit of an edge. And, somebody like her, the marketing they're spending is probably $30,000 a month, but that kind of was a jaw dropper for me. I was like, oh, I didn't even try to sell this, and you just offered me $1,000. Now, granted, it's mail, but I told her I was going to charge $2 a postcard because the app, I mean, it was free. It was not even an app on the App Store. So to get it on her phone, I put it on the App Store, and then, yeah, she ended up talking me down, and she bought $750 worth of mail for $1.50 each. But it was a free app.
She got
Had to come up. She's true. Yeah, she's good at her job. And I had to come up with a name and a logo to put on the App Store. So I did 99 designs, and I called it Deal Machine because at my previous job, if I closed a sale for the fraternity software, my boss, Josh, would be like, man, David, he's a deal machine. Let's give it up for David. And so that's how the name came to be.
Good. I love it. I love it.
I thought it sounded
and you
cool.
had your first, I did. Well, it is cool. Look at it now. It is cool. And it's true because like truly what it does, what it helps people get is it's a deal machine. You track your deals, you put them in, and then it creates, like from what I can tell and see, it's a phenomenal marketing software that then it gets people a lot of deals. So, okay, you got your first customer, and now today it's an extremely successful marketing tool. You have 31 employees. Talk to us about what happened from, okay, you got your first customer to now it's 31 employees. I mean, because you're also, how old are you, David?
I'm 35.
Yeah, you're 35 years old. So you're a very young entrepreneur. Talk to us about what that looked like from your first customer to now having 31 employees.
Yeah. Well, man, I could make that journey in like 7 steps, but my partner and I, so once Brittany used it and I put it on the App Store, there was a coaching group that was like run by Than Merrill called Fortune Builders. And in the Fortune Builders was like a thing you spend $20,000 on, and then you're like in the program. And so I definitely was like not in the program. I did not have that kind of money. But people in their group were sharing Deal Machine. They're like, hey, there's this tool. It'll help you guys drive for dollars, because that's what we started with. And so I would spend every day calling every single person who signed up for the app organically, which was like 8, 9, 10 a day, which is pretty crazy because I wasn't doing any marketing. You know what I mean? But all my time was just like calling and talking with them. It wasn't an easy to use app because I made it, and I'm not good at making things look good. I was a database guy. So my best friend, though, thankfully, he was really good at development. I was like, hey, dude, I need you to be my partner and make this thing look better. And so then he remade it. It looked great, started growing. I went to conferences so I could get the word out. I didn't have a lot of credibility myself. I mean, I hadn't even done my first deal yet. So I thought I'd borrow someone else's. So I went to Sean Terry's conference in Phoenix. There was about 300 people there. And I thought, I'll just talk to him. He'll meet me. He'll love me. And he'll want to share his tool too, just like Fortune Builders. That didn't really work out that way. He was pretty busy. And fortunately, though, I did put myself in a place where serendipity could happen. And there was a certain investor there who made a vlog about my app because he met me, he liked the app, and he liked it. And then he went from 1,000 to 100,000 YouTube followers in 2019. And then everyone like Sean Terry was like, oh man, I used to charge courses, but now all this info is for free on YouTube, and that guy's getting all the attention. So I was like, everyone was like, I want to make YouTube videos. So we're really good at replicating as humans. So then everybody started making vlogs, and then they also started talking about my app because that's what the original guy was doing. So that was all good. I think there was 3 years in that it was just, first of all, my partner and I worked 2 years before we were able to pay ourselves like a $50,000 a year salary. So 2 years, two years without pay
before you could
2 years without
50.
pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had the savings I was living off of, and my partner, he did freelance work on the side, and his wife worked at the time. So that's how we were able to do that. And then I think it just got real big real fast. And like $1 million, $6 million, $9 million, $12 million. It was like the year sequentially after that. So that was pretty crazy. With all that growth, I kind of mistook the thing that made us grow. So I was like, well, our product was just good. People wanted to share it. So if we make the product better, then more people will want to share it. That is not what happened at all.
You thought it was going to be like word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth. The better the product gets, the more people will want to share it. And that didn't happen. What
actually happened was when you do something meaningful, everybody wants a piece of the action. So there were 9 copycat apps that came out that one year, I think. And so some attention started to get divided. None of them worked except like one actually became like a similar app with similar amount of users, et cetera. I meanwhile had hired 50 employees. So we were at 25 and we went to 50 because I thought, well, if I get 50 employees and make the product that much better, then we'll grow that much faster. But in reality, it just really rose my expenses, and what was very profitable all of a sudden had some negative profit months actually, which was really scary. I didn't know if I should fire them, or if I did that, the people who remained, what would the culture be like? It was a very stressful time in my life. I couldn't sleep. I wasn't socializing, et cetera. So,
did it feel like when you made that decision, do you feel like that was it were you starting to second guess as well, like on the app at all? Or was it mainly like, what was that like? Did it feel like Deal Machine could maybe go down? Did it feel that challenging, or was it more the overhead and figuring out how to cut that?
Yeah. So I think PropStream had been around 20 years as a CD-ROM software. But because they had been around for a long time, they had deep pockets. So they started sponsoring the main guy who's pushing us. And so he didn't stop pushing us, but now the attention was divided, right? So that just means less people coming in. So ultimately, the lesson in business is you should double down, triple down on what works well. And so for us, YouTubers telling people how to invest in real estate and then referring people to our app was what worked best. But once you get big enough, I think it's time to learn how to do your own marketing or diversify a little bit. So we learned how to do our own marketing, and we've shifted. I never let anyone go, never sold my house or the car I bought. We actually moved people over to marketing, started doing our own marketing. And so that is a big part of today. And YouTuber referrals and stuff like that is usually about like 40% now. So, we just kind of like, at some point you need to take control, and communicate well, right? So on the investor side, I mean, that's doing our own marketing. If you're only driven by SEO, Google changes the algorithm, that might put you in a tough spot. If you've been doing some direct mail also, then you wouldn't be hurt as much by that. But on the other side, if you're just starting out, like, don't do SEO and direct mail and calling and texting. You need to have a baseline of success before diversifying. Like you should be doing like half, $250,000 a year before like starting to add like all these different strategies, maybe even 100,000 a year, right? But I just see people do like 4 things before they've done a single deal, and nothing sticks because they didn't do enough of any one thing, and then they give up, and then the call probably comes in.
They say none of it works.
Probably comes in 3 months later because there's a long tail return on some of the stuff like direct mail. So that would be the second thing I'd write down, would be like double down on one thing that has worked for either somebody or is working for you. And then once you get big enough, then you could add a second one to eliminate a concentration risk. That would be the second thing I'd write down.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, there's a great book. I think it's called One Thing. The one thing, keeping the one thing, just keep working on the one thing, right? And keeping the main thing. All of those are sayings for a reason. And I've definitely also experienced it myself, where when you're working on something, I actually had to do it the other day. I'm working on something, I get all excited, this, especially as an entrepreneur, this business now, it's working pretty good. And then I'm like, okay, can we buy other businesses, or what can we do? And I had to catch myself. I'm like, wait a second. No, we're 4 years into building this thing. Let's keep doubling down on that. Similar, exactly like you said, to the compound interest. It also works in your experience. And as you get smarter and smarter, and as you stack all those lessons you're learning in that one industry, right? Stay in that thing and don't give up on it, because you might be pivoting right before your exponential moment, right? It sounds like for you, it was 2 years. You didn't pay yourself at all. You had the discipline. Early on, knowing that if I sacrifice now, then later on, what you thought originally was going to be through the 401k route, right? All that compound was going to work. Actually, it gave you the savings that then catapulted you to be able to have the freedom for 2 years to work on something that all of a sudden, in an exponential moment, you didn't quit on it. In an exponential moment, like you said, went from 1 million to 6 to 9 to 12, right? And that happens because you just stayed in the same game over and over and over. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool to see, you know, what you've built now and how you did. So you said marketing, David. You said marketing specifically. Are we talking like organic, your own personal branding? You're talking, what do you say when you say marketing? Is that what you started focusing on, like grassroots, organic, personal brand, or what do you mean by that?
Two things. No. So what I first meant when I was talking was on the Deal Machine side, we began running paid Facebook ads. We began running paid per click ads. We began running video ads on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. And then on the personal side, I was like, man, it took me 5 years I never saw the value in social media because I had this rocket ship company that was helping people do real estate investing. But I realized when I had that stressful moment, my entire business was powered by social media. It was just other people's social media. So I realized whoever's behind the social media is actually who has a lot of power. So I want to learn the skill of learning social media. That was very important for me to learn the skill, not just outsource it, which probably wouldn't have worked well anyway. But because you could take away my car, you could take away my money, you could take away my business, but you'll never be able to take away the skills that I've gathered along the way, which pay dividends as you get further in your career, as you said. So I thought that would be a very valuable skill to have, is how to communicate on social media, which is the way people communicate these days. So that was done in parallel. But what I meant before was like, no, I actually formed a marketing team in my business and we started doing actual paid marketing.
Yeah. You started doing it. So it was two buckets. You did the actual paid marketing and really worked on that side of it with your team, with the existing team you had. And at the same time, you realized that if I go and build this personal brand and learn how to communicate, get my message out and share, there's a ton of value in learning that skill. Let's unpack that a little bit, because you didn't do any social media. You kind of said it was a distraction, right? You weren't doing any social media. You then saw the value in it. Tell me about, as you start to go and put yourself out there, what was that like? What was it like, putting yourself on camera and filming, etc.? And how long did it take you to start to have some sort of success in the personal branding game?
Well, the only people who followed me on social media was my mom and my friends from college and current friends. So I had never used social media to reach brand new people. That was very awkward. Kind of reminded me of when I went to the gym for the first time, which was in college, because I never played football or anything where they actually brought you to the gym and showed you how to lift weights. And I went with my roommate, Brad. I was looking at how other people were using the equipment, and then I'd like look away real quick because they thought I was checking them out or something. And so I didn't go very often because it was super awkward. But then I hired a trainer. Fast forward, I hired a trainer to come meet me every day. So I had the discipline bought, because he's meeting me. I'm paying for it whether or not I show up, and I don't want to let him down by me not showing up. And then he told me and showed me how to do all this stuff. And later that year, I did a bodybuilding contest, believe it or not. So talk about doing a 180. So the social media, I knew I needed to commit to doing the reps every day. I took a challenge to post 4 videos per day, which I heard on some Gary Vee podcast. And I paid my friend, it was like $20 to come meet me for coffee, and I'll buy you a coffee. If just hold the camera and ask me questions if I don't have any ideas. And that's how I got the 4 videos every day done. Now, some of the videos were really goofy to maybe nobody cared. None of them were big viral videos, but it got like 800 videos posted in 1 year. And it got me over the fear of like being afraid of posting something and being judged, because I always felt like you're as good as your last most recent video. But I had 3 more coming later that day. So if this video sucks, I'm only bad for 2 hours, and then here comes another one. So that got me out of the fear. And that's how I handled attacking that, and just kind of a brute force method. And then this past year, I pulled back to doing 1 per day, but try to get a lot more thoughtful about how the video was crafted. And I had many, well, not even many. I would say like all my followers came from like 6 viral videos. And I posted a lot of videos, but they came from is like 6 videos, which is pretty wild. 1 video got me 26,000 followers alone.
Yep. Yeah, I know similar. I didn't go to four. Four is beast mode. So 4 a day is pretty beast mode. To go and push out 800 posts in a year, that takes consistency, discipline,
Right.
and just a massive amount of work ethic there. But similar to you there, same commitment. I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to posting once a day and just testing out different things, right? Everything from, like you said, some goofy stuff and just testing different things out, getting feedback, and then all of a sudden, after you've been doing it long enough, you get a little bit better. You understand more about how to do a hook, how to create. You just get more and more comfortable. And then, very similar to what happened with you, we had a couple videos that started to get some traction, couple videos that go viral, and then all of a sudden you start to gain momentum. You also start to see what people want, and you get this feedback loop, right? A lot of quantity gives you a lot of feedback and allows you to then refine, and get a little bit better. So yeah, I remember, when I got on social media, I told you before we started recording, I remember you were one of the guys I was following and I was loving your content. I liked the authenticity. I just liked it a lot. I think you had like 5,000 followers at that time. And, here we are today. I don't know how much longer. It was about a year. It's been only about a year. And, now you're pushing close to 100. And there's the cat. There's the potty trained cat. He's potty trained, right? Or he or she?
Yeah. Yeah. This is George. He's the best.
Georgie. There you go. Cool, man. Yeah. So as far as getting over that hump and starting to post, was there ever, when you're posting 4 times a day and nothing was actually working, was there a time you thought you wanted to quit, wasting your time?
Yeah. I felt really embarrassing too, for sure.
Did it? Yeah.
Yeah. But I have to, and this is why I think it's so important for us to like mentor or teach others, because thankfully with the tool and real estate that I've created, there are a lot of people, thousands of people that use it. And we do these live cold call challenges now. And I know, guys, I've gotten deals from cold calling, but they don't because they've never done it. And if you haven't done it, it feels like, is this really possible? So we have them do homework. You make 210 calls per week, which is pretty manageable. It's like an hour or two, to make that kind of phone calls per week. And some people ask like, hey, is it like good if I like did more? Like, is that okay? And I mean, the answer is like, yeah, it's like literally the more you do, the faster you're going to get a deal, And I just kind of felt the same way with social media, that I should take my own advice, and most people would give up. And that's actually what separates me from being average in my own mind, right? We all think we're special, but that's how I kind of thought about it, was like, no, I'm not going to give up. Other humans have gone viral. Just because I haven't and I've posted 800 videos doesn't mean I can't. It means there's something I haven't learned. So I need to keep pushing and keep consuming as much as I can. I think I bought 4 or 5 courses on social media then, and they ranged from like $1,000 to $59, but the best nugget was from like the $59 course. And I was like, all right, just got to find the answers. If some other human can do it, you can too. It's just, you have to figure out how.
Yeah, I love that question that you presented there. Like, if it's not quite working to where you believe it should be at, and you've seen the proof in others, the key is not to give up, not to have a pity party, not to say I'm not good enough. The key is to ask yourself, like you said, what have I not learned yet? What have I not learned yet?
Yeah.
What have I not done yet to get there? And I really like that question. That's like the definition of somebody who lives the growth mindset, right? And I think that would be, since we're having people write stuff down, that would be the third thing to really write down.
I agree.
If you're not where you want to be yet, ask yourself, like, what do I need to learn? What have I not learned yet? I even like that more. What have I not learned yet? To
Correct.
get where I want to go. Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know what you need to learn. That's like the hard part. And so that's why I went and bought.
Yeah, you have to go. You have to do it. You have to experience it. Yeah.
I bought 4 or 5 courses, and another way of saying that is like, you only lose if you give up. So if you don't give up, you've never lost.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that as well. You literally cannot. And you and I are definitely on the same page there. All the failures, like I always tell myself, and I have to pep talk myself when I get really down on myself. I have to pep talk myself, what is right now potentially a perceived failure is actually just a stepping stone, right? It's just a stepping stone. It is not a failure. It's just a stepping stone towards the future success. David, I know you also like to race like a madman, and, you've found a way to build this amazing company, and then also now really pursue that hobby and that passion. Tell us a little bit about that and just, what was that like? Because it sounds like even one of your motivations when you first put that discipline in, you're like, hey, my friend has this really cool car. I
Yeah.
want to get a really cool car. That was kind
Yeah.
of one of the carrots you dangled for yourself.
In 2019, which was the year I was having that stressful period of my life / company, randomly, my friend Gary was like, hey, I'm doing this race where we race a car that's worth $500. So it's a very cheap car for 24 hours. And I need to bring 3 other drivers so that we could rotate and take stints driving this car in this race. Do you want to do it? And I was like, I've never done anything like that. It sounds awesome. Yeah, I would do that. And when I got in the car for the first time, it was during the race, and the belts were so uncomfortable. I was like, I can't drive it this way. He's like, hey, push the door shut. He's like, go have fun. And so I drove really, really slow, but there was nothing I could focus on outside of that car and trying to drive it as fast as possible, a little bit faster, while also not crashing his car, crashing into other people. I mean, it was all so new. It's just totally consuming. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that, but like it demands your attention. There's nothing else you could think about, which was so refreshing when you've spent like 9 months like being stressed from anything. So that's how I first
you can't
realized
sleep. You haven't been able to sleep,
Yeah.
and then boom, full focus.
Yeah, so very refreshing. It didn't really solve all my problems yet, but I felt a lot better. And that's honestly the first step. So here's the 4th thing you should write down is you have to take care of yourself before you take care of others. So my business was like taking care of others, my employees, my customers. So that's when I started stop drinking, getting good sleep, working out. And then I was like, I got to find out how to do more car racing. I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't have friends that raced anything. I mean, I had friends that played soccer. I had friends that played tennis. I had friends that played baseball. But I was like, how do people get into this car stuff? And the answer I found out later is like, well, you have to have rich parents to like put you in the seat when you're a kid. And if you're an adult, like you have to pay for it yourself, especially, I know everyone thinks you can get sponsors, but who's going to sponsor you to like take a lesson? It's like you got to pay for that yourself, build your skills before anyone would look at you to be a sponsor. So, and then on top of that, you have to race in a series that has a lot of eyeballs before anybody would want to sponsor you, because otherwise who's going to see their sponsorship? So I finally realized like this is very expensive. I signed up for, it was about $4,000. It was like Skip Barber Racing School. And I did like 2 or 3 of those. And then I moved to Austin, and there just happened to be this like really low cost Miata racing like club. It's like a $15,000 car. So I like focus on building my skills. And yes, like I do like nice cars, but I was like very much more motivated by that thought of like, well, you could take away my car, you could take away my money, but you can't take away my skills. So the skill of driving was so rewarding for me to build. And I went from getting lapped to like I hired a coach and actually won a race against 26 other people at that club in 4 months. I was like, oh shit.
Pump you up. What did it feel like to win? Feel good? I
thought like, did somebody like cheat by like, did somebody like put a bigger motor in my car? I was like, I really don't understand how this happened. It felt like, I was like, I can't believe that happened. But my coach is very good. And I also did learn I have some natural ability for that. So I'm going to weave and tell you a story. I was really into wake surfing 2 years ago. I did a competition and I got beat so bad by all these 16-year-olds. And I was like, there's no way I'll ever be as good as them because they've been doing it since they were like 4. So I stopped doing that. I was like, I can't do this if I can never win. So I'm not going to do this anymore. But racing, I like had a better natural talent. So I upgraded my car and I did a really cool race series that was all on the East Coast in really epic tracks. And so that was a huge learning experience for me this year. I ended up getting second. There's 14 people who did the series. So came close to first, but I'm going to run it again next year. And so that was really, really, really fun.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's for me, like that focus thing on the racing, it makes sense, right? Because you can't focus on anything else but racing really, really fast. For me, that same outlet, or when the quote you said of you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. For me, that
Yeah.
outlet is running. So
Yeah.
I played soccer, I had my soccer career, and then running became sort of that mental shower. Now, it's not the same. I imagine like racing is more adrenaline based. That's all you can focus on, where running is sort of a mental shower. You start off, when you first start running, you start thinking about all your stresses. And then slowly, as you start to hit more of a threshold, right, all those thoughts end up releasing, and it's like a mental shower. And, I think that for me, having an outlet, especially if you're putting yourself under a lot of pressure, whether that's with the family, the business, etc., having something where you can just release those stress points. For you, it's racing. For me, it's running. It's key. And so I love that if you're having challenge, make sure you take care of yourself first, which means audit your habits, like audit all your behaviors. Some of the best book that changed my life forever was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. You can just read that over and over and over again, auditing those habits, right? So cut the drinking, go exercise, go get outside, do things that you'll gain momentum just by taking care of yourself. So I love that. David, what now? I mean, Deal Machine is now at a great place. It's continuing to grow. It's a phenomenal marketing software. Anybody who's in real estate. I remember when I told our team that we're having you on, they're like, the Deal Machine? No way, we got David on. I said, yeah, we got him on. That's now at a good place. So what does it look like for you in the future? Like, what's next for David Lecko?
Well, I mean, I'm running the Deal Machine, the company. I'm focused on speaking at events. I just spoke to an event with 350 people, entrepreneurs, and they actually paid to have me come out. So that was like my biggest success ever, was just, again, learning how to communicate, speaking at events, and learning how to get better at social media, not just posting stuff, not outsourcing it, but like building the skill of communicating in a way that people care about, that they want help, that can help them. I mean, those are the 3 things I'm working on. And then the third is I'm not doing the bodybuilding contest anymore. I'm not wake surfing. I've always struggled by being pretty good at like everything, but not the best at anything. And so I want to focus on just racing as the hobby, and going into 2025 and win first place in that. So if I had like a 5th thing to write down, I would just say, stay focused. Don't get shiny object syndrome. The grass is greener on the other side, because sometimes the grass is fake. So if you've got a good thing going, you need to stay focused on really extracting the value from that. Otherwise, I think you open yourself up to kind of spinning your wheels. That's been my experience.
Yeah, I love that. I love that saying. It's like, yeah, hey, that grass might look greener, but it's AstroTurf. So, definitely
That's right.
focus in. And where focus goes, energy flows. Tony Robbins, a legendary guy, is the one who I learned that piece from. What about if you were an entrepreneur that's listening to this, or somebody who's young, entrepreneurial spirit, they love what you're saying, they love your story. What would be a piece of advice that you would give them?
You said if there was a brand new person who's wanting to get into real estate investing, what advice would I give to them?
Yeah. I'm going to ask 2 advice pieces. The first one for somebody with an entrepreneurial spirit who's listening to this. They have an idea, but they haven't been quite able to put it together yet. What piece of advice do you have for them?
If they have an idea but haven't started yet, I mean, what they should do is they should read the top 5 books in the category of what they want to do. They should go to events that are attracting people who do legitimately do what they want to do. And then they should run towards, as fast as possible, like doing that thing, like doing your first deal, making more than 210 calls if you're doing the cold calling challenge. So that would be my advice on like how to get started. And that's how I go approach starting things.
I love it. So read the top 5 books in whatever it is. If it's real estate specifically, read the top 5 books, and then go to events to get around people who are doing what you want to be doing, and then just put action, like get in there and put action, because you learn a lot by doing. That would be the advice to the new entrepreneur.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what about somebody they have an existing business, but they maybe feel stuck right now? They feel like they're plateauing. They feel like they're coming up against a wall. They're a couple years in, or maybe they're 5 years in, 10 years in, but they're just stuck right now. What would you say to somebody like that?
Yeah. When my business got stuck back in 2019, I joined a group specifically for growing my specific types of businesses. So it had a coaching element, it had peer group element, it had people in the group that were bigger than me, right? So I just didn't want to hesitate to spend to invest in myself because knowing what I'd learned from that would probably get my business unstuck, but it would probably also build my skill set, which again is priceless, something you can't take away. So, I mean, if you're truly stuck there, you've got to go. I would not hesitate to buy multiple courses, multiple programs to find a way to get unstuck.
I love that piece of advice. My biggest lesson I learned in 2023, which now we're already at the end of 2024, but when I reflected on 2023, I learned that there's an abundance of money out there. There's an abundance of opportunity out there, but we only have a finite amount of time. And so I always look for if I can trade what there's an abundance of money and gain time, gain experience, mentorship, etc. I'm going to do it every single day of the week. And so I think that's a great piece of advice. David, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you making time for us. I know we had a little technical difficulty when we got the party started. We're going through our own growing pains as we move offices. For anybody that wanted to connect with you, David, where can they find you? What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah. So the best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Lecko, and I've put together a small gift for you guys. The best deal that I did this year was a BRRRR strategy deal: buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. So I've made $125,000 in the equity position of that deal, and as well as it cash flows and gets paid for by the tenant. If you guys want a BRRRR calculator type BRRRR, just DM me the word BRRRR, and I'll send that over to you guys on how I analyze those types of homes to tell if they're a good deal or not.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll link that in the show notes, everybody. Both David's Instagram handle, and we'll put in there. We'll make sure there's notes in there to DM him BRRRR. And
Cool.
thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Congrats on all the success. I cannot wait to see. I can tell it's just the beginning. I can't wait to see where everything goes. And we really appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. This was a really great podcast. You're a great interviewer and felt like one of the most genuine interviewers that I've had the pleasure of being on. And I mean that seriously too. So good job. And I'm excited to share a podcast clip from this.
I appreciate that a lot. We'll do it in person sometime. It'll be even better. One day we'll be at an event together, or we'll be able to cross paths. We'll do it in person, and it'll light it on fire.
Where do you do your podcast in person? Now, where's your new studio?
Yeah, so we live in Bend, Oregon. Our studio's here in Bend, Oregon. We just moved offices. And then, we're actively also, because we're trying to level up even our own podcast. So we're actively, even for the right people, willing and working on traveling out. We have a really cool one. I'm excited for everybody here pretty soon, with probably the biggest name we've ever been able to get on the podcast before the end of the year, where we're flying out to get it done. And, so I can't wait to do it in person. If you're ever in Bend, Oregon, let us know. But also you and I we'll just connect. And if we're ever at the same area, same event, etc., we'll make it work. Where are you living, Dave? Are you still in Austin?
Yeah.
Austin, Texas. Good, man. Well, super exciting to be able to connect with you. I look forward to building a relationship with you. Can't wait to see where both Deal Machine and David Lecko go, and we'll be following you along.
That sounds great. See you, man.
All right, good. All right. And with that, we will see you on the next one, my friends.